Welcome everybody to another exciting episode of HomeKit Insider. You've got me, as always, Andrew O'Hara. Joining me this week once again is Wesley Hilliard, the man squirrels called Squeak. How you doing, dude?
Pretty good, Andrew. Excited for the week ahead of us as we record, of course. You'll be hearing this on Monday, so everything will already have happened. But as of right now, I'm driving to Nashville tomorrow to go get my Vision Pro.
Nice. That's very stoked about it. The reviews have come out of these initial impressions. So far, nothing that was surprising, but yeah, we will have more opinions, I am sure, on next week's episode, especially if we see what HomeKit possibilities we actually have with this thing.
Yeah, I mean, we can get into it maybe later in the show after we've gotten through some news, because I know people don't tune in for the Apple Vision Pro, but I've definitely got some opinions, but I'm with you. I think the reviews pretty much nailed exactly what we were expecting as far as like the review content goes. But yeah, I still think this is a device you have to use. It's going to be very personal, and everyone's opinion is going to differ.
Absolutely. Well, let's start off the show with our news. We have some news out of Amazon. Amazon has actually abandoned its purchase or acquisition of Roomba, or its parent company iRobot, more specifically, which will have fallout to varying degrees. So first off, the iRobot CEO, Colin Engel, he's departing. They're laying off 350 people, and they're ending development of anything but their core products, which of course is their Roomba line and a few other products. So I am a huge fan of smart home vacuum cleaners. Roomba has had some of the best in the market, but it feels like in the last year or two, there's been so much increased competition from the likes of Ecovacs, from the likes of Roborock. We've seen we've covered ones from Narwhal and Dreamy. There's been so many kind of popping up that have been very, very good. It's a lot of new competition for iRobot, which had kind of consumed the space for a while, and now Amazon backing out of this deal after all these antitrust and regulator scrutiny. I don't know. This is a big deal for the smart home space.
Yeah, Amazon's been chasing this deal for a while, haven't they? I mean, it's just one of those things where, do they really need iRobot? Is this another thing they need to compete with? There are robot vacuums everywhere, but also Amazon sells everything. So it just feels like a funny thing for them to even try to get into. But with Matter opening up access to the smart home and robot vacuums, it kind of makes sense to an extent. But on the other end of the spectrum, Amazon hasn't been super serious about home things lately. They've been kind of putting those things on the back burner as they focus more on, their main revenue source, shopping. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But them backing off of iRobot, I think, is better for the consumer. Just, we don't need another Amazon product eating an entire ecosystem.
That's true. I just hope that iRobot is able to stabilize. If the outcome of this is iRobot ends up shuttering, that would be awful. I'm hopeful that with their restructuring, their layoffs, which are always unfortunate, they're able to continue those core product lines and continue to innovate there, because more competitors makes this more of a competitive space, and we're going to get better features from these other products, including from iRobot. So I hope that continues to flourish as well. There's been so much innovation in this area. I don't know. Got mixed feelings about it, because I agree. Why do we need Amazon throwing their hat in the ring? This isn't their first smart home acquisition that they attempted. Most of the other ones have gone through. They picked up Ring ages ago. There's Blink home security systems, and there's the Eero routers. All these play nice with Apple products and with HomeKit to varying degrees. But yeah, so there we go. Amazon abandoning iRobot after all this regulator scrutiny.
I mean, it'd be terrible for iRobot to go under, but these things happen. Companies can't exist forever. The ecosystems evolve, competitors change, and eventually you just end up with too much competition. And yes, while iRobot might have been first, that doesn't necessarily mean they're the best. And we're seeing a lot of innovation in the field. And honestly, I haven't really heard much from this company in a while, especially as better LiDAR systems and more like AI recognition software and all of that is taking off. And it seems like iRobot, I mean, is just out of money or out of ideas. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure that anything other than Amazon's wallet would save them at this point. And again, do we really need Amazon competing in this space? And also a question, why would Amazon need to acquire iRobot in the first place? They could just hire people and make their own. So maybe the acquisition would be cheaper than designing one from scratch, but I don't know. This seems to be Amazon's gambit. Just buy the companies, integrate it into their systems, and go on from there.
Pretty much. Well, next up in the news, this is exciting. So we had this sent in by a listener. I don't know how to pronounce this. Siobhan, Siobhan. But thank you for sending this in. They were able to peep that the Matter certification for the Level Lock Plus was issued earlier this month. Now, that does not mean that these work with Matter yet. That will still require the additional firmware push, but this could mean that we are imminently close to getting Matter and Thread on the Level Lock Plus. I'm very excited about this.
So what does this mean for someone? All right, I have a Level Lock Plus hooked up to my front door. I'm a HomeKit only user. Does this really mean anything to me? Or like, is this more for Google Home users?
No, this is one of the few Matter upgrades that will likely be important for Apple users. And here's why. Because their upgrade to Matter is also enabling the Thread radios inside of the lock itself. So my only downside with the Level Locks is they rely on Bluetooth, as most smart locks do. But the problem with it is it can be a little slower to respond. It has to kick up that Bluetooth signal and send things across, and it's not as quick as Thread devices are. So Thread is that new wireless connection protocol. It's very lightweight, more robust, self-healing network, very low power, faster than Bluetooth, all these benefits. And it's had a Thread radio in there. And they have said, like, we will enable Thread when we enable Matter. So now that we're getting a Matter upgrade, we should get the Thread upgrade at the same time, and it should see improved performance on the smart lock.
Well, so a funny story about the Level Lock. I use it primarily through HomeKit. I pretty much only lock and unlock it either through automation or through NFC tapping. And the Level Lock app didn't tell me its battery was low. I'm not sure why. There doesn't appear to be any specific notification settings in the app. I couldn't really figure out where to get this indicator earlier. But in the Home app, it was able to tell me after the fact that the battery was low. But we went to unlock the door, and it made the sound as if it started tumbling over, and then it stopped. And I got a message saying there's not enough battery power for it to operate, which is scary when you're outside the door and don't carry keys. So luckily, it turned the thing over enough that I was able to kind of lift the door and push it open. But in any other circumstance, yeah, I would have probably been locked out of my house and had to find a way to break in. I wish there was a better way to automate this. Like, you can check battery levels and stuff, and you can see these things in the apps, but I wish these things were more proactive in telling you, hey, it's time to change out that battery, because it's variable. Depends on how often you're using the lock, the temperature outside. I mean, the cold air could have honestly just killed it at that point.
Yeah, that's true. I always recommend people to download like that Home Batteries app, which is really handy, just to see like visually all of your battery statuses in one spot. The Home app does have that thing, but mine gets flooded because I have too many like legacy devices that I've like reviewed and never removed, or that just kind of hang around as low battery status. So I think that's helpful to be able to see things more easily. But yeah, it's definitely something to be wary of and to worry. I always keep like a backup key somewhere, whether it's like with a neighbor or in my car, something just in case, or even for like our back door, because it's like a sliding door where the smart lock wouldn't work.
Right.
Keep one of those keys around, like if you had to use it. I know other locks, like a lot from Yale, have that safeguard built in and allow you to connect a 9-volt battery just by touching it to the front, and that'll give it the power to turn on and unlock. But
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty against keys at this point. If I could carry nothing, I would. It still bothers me to this day that cars don't have aftermarket car key systems. Where are they? Why doesn't it exist? Is it Apple preventing this? I don't know. But the instant I would be able to, I would dismantle my car piece by piece and install a car key system. Absolutely. But yeah, I think I'll just tape a key to the inside of my glove compartment or something, and that way, if anything like this came up, I could at least have an option. But no, I've never actually been locked out of my house because of a smart lock before. That's one of the main questions I get from people when I say I don't carry a house key. I just use my phone or use my watch. Question one is, what happens if your phone is dead? Then I have to explain what express mode is and why HomeKey is actually a useful system for this. Because express mode, if you didn't know, lets you use your phone's NFC or your watch's NFC to activate HomeKey on the lock by tapping, even when the phone is operationally dead. It won't boot the OS, but the key is still inside of the NFC chip, basically, and you can tap it to get inside. That's nice. But in a circumstance where my phone is dead and my watch is dead, what do I do? I mean, how would you find yourself in that situation? I don't know. Maybe be less irresponsible, but yeah, I've never had an issue where I've been just completely locked out of my house. So, have you ever run into any problems with smart locks?
I have, but mine isn't a real use case that people should worry about. But ages ago, before HomeKit and everything was really existing, I had gotten a smart door lock for our apartment, and I can't remember, like it was like Lockbot or something. I don't know, but it was original like crowdfunding campaign, and they had sent the door lock out, and the folks there were absolutely amazing. They were so helpful with things because I felt like I was basically kind of beta testing this thing, and I had one time left and come home, and it was not responding and would not open my door, and I ended up like emailing them that I'm out, like locked out, and the founder like asked me for my number, and he like called me, and then he had some engineers that were trying to remotely reset the lock, and they were able to remotely do this, and they ended up saying like, oh, I think it looks like it was like too long, got jammed, so they sent me a custom door throw that they had tapered at the end in their office to make this work on my lock. And like, again, they were so good about the whole thing, but you should not need the founder of a company calling and working with engineers to reset your lock.
That's a level of troubleshooting.
Yeah,
you don't want to get involved in that.
Yeah,
things have gone wrong at that point.
This is a very early heydays. This is before August existed, everything like that. So this is more than 10 years ago, I'm pretty sure. So it's been definitely more than 10 years. It's like 15 years probably. I don't know where time goes, but well, let's go ahead and move on to our next thing, which is going to be just rife for speculation, and it's very little information, but I feel like this is something you and I are both excited about, which is another surfacing of Apple's HomeOS. This was revealed. Mac Rumors found it in the code inside of the latest tvOS 17.4 release. Just a opaque reference to HomeOS, which we actually first saw back in 2021 in job listings on Apple's website that quickly removed them. But we still had no HomeOS products, and I know you and me keep hoping that we are going to see some sort of smart display, smart speaker situation. Maybe we're getting closer.
I don't know. I just wonder if this is some clever marketing ploy that just where they change the name of something to HomeOS. I mean, Apple Home, HomeKit, it doesn't really roll off the tongue as it is. And if maybe they wanted to make your Apple Home more referenceable from a code point of view, maybe they come out with specific API systems or even an app store that has to do with operating your home, like downloading apps to the Apple TV that operate specific smart home functions. If you want to call an API inside of that, maybe your house becomes the operating system, and Apple would want to have a way of referencing that in documentation for developers. That's where I could see HomeOS. I agree with you. Like maybe if they come out with a smart HomePod display, it would run something akin to homeOS. That could be the name for it. But then again, it obviously might as well just be called tvOS. I mean, the operating system name is mostly obscure to people. I mean, half of people don't even know that their iPhone run iOS. So ask them what their TV runs. They're not going to tell you tvOS. They'll be like, I guess it just runs Apple TV. I don't know. So I don't know how important the naming is, but again, it's cool to see that there's something being worked on in the background that maybe will surface later into a product.
So here's my thought. Apple's tvOS operating system for the Apple TV, it is what HomePod is based off of. Like the HomePod operating system is just a branched version of tvOS, which already feels like a gateway to integrating more of a display into HomePod. Right. But we have heard plenty of rumors that Apple is working on some sort of smart display enabled device for the home. And it really makes sense for Apple to be in that space. All of its competitors have them, and they've been pretty decent. Like I couldn't name their products, but the Google one, like the Nest Home Hub or something like that, it's really nice. My personal theory has been that Apple's Assistant has not been up to the task. And putting it into a smart display, I still don't know if it would, like, a lot of focus is going to come to Apple's Assistant. But now we're hearing this year is finally the year of the Apple Assistant getting these generative AI features to make it actually robust and actually competitive in this space. And that seems like the perfect time to integrate it into a home hub type device that can sit on your kitchen counter and be really useful as that smart speaker, and making Apple's Assistant the face of it. And having that, UI pulling from the Apple TV into that smaller screen that's able to like show answers to what you're doing and show timers going on, show music lyrics, like whatever it is that you're doing. It feels like it is a good time to actually make this product. Matter is becoming more powerful. So we've got more smart home products going into the home. Apple's been really adding stuff to music. It'd be cool to see like lyrics on there as you're playing things back. I think it makes sense. I think the timing is there. Rumors have been heating up. That is my hope. That is my personal theory.
Right. If I had to pick an interface for Apple's smart speaker, I would say CarPlay, not Apple TV. Just having a few widgets show up based on what you're doing.
But Apple TV has more of the features it needs because it's able to show more responses in Siri. It has things like the lyric view for that, and it already has a much more robust developer backend because most things on there would be able to port right over. Like even like HomeKit apps and everything from Apple TV could move directly to a HomeOS device.
I mean, yeah, Apple TV makes sense as the base operating system. I'm just talking about like the UI feature, just being able to have some.
I think it would be something very new, just a mixture of everything.
A combination. In Siri, I would have. I know, like, I'm a Siri apologist as far as things go. For some reason, I just don't have the issues that people do with it. Maybe I'm just not trying to push it as hard as other people. But
ask it to do two things at once. Ask it, say, hey, can you shut my shades in here, close the shades in the bedroom, and then turn on the bathroom light for me? Because that seems like something I would want to do. And it's like, I can do one of those, and you don't know which.
Well, like, I look at Vision OS, and so much of it is voice control, and even the earlier reviews for that is like, you have to use it for the assistant for everything when you're want to get something done quickly rather than navigating a UI and looking for an app and opening it. Like, you have to give these commands. And so I agree, like, it seems like a lot of stars are aligning. iOS 18 looks like it's going to be a big Siri release. It's also going to focus on, like you said, those large language models and being better at understanding language and inputs, and hopefully decision making and carrying on conversations. Like, all of these align with getting a better Vision OS, but as well getting more home interactions. And I could see that being in a speaker. It's just, I wonder what shape that'll take. And again, Apple's made the claim before, we already sell a screen for the home. It's called the iPad. And I would like one of two solutions. I don't mind Google's solution, even though it kind of uh, seemed to die on the shelf. I haven't really heard anything about Google Pixel and its little speaker stand. Yeah, I mean, how many people have those gathering dust on a shelf? I mean, I'm sure they exist. As many as 3 people own Pixel phones, so at least those 3 people bought a Pixel tablet with a stand. It's a good concept, and I would love to see Apple integrate like a magnetic holder for an iPad to put into a HomePod, so that when you're walking around your home and you need to set your iPad down, it has a base station to set in, and then it goes into this different mode. I could see that being a solution, but a dedicated screen with a speaker in it it doesn't feel very Apple. And I know we've said that about products before, but I don't know. We'll see what they do in this space, especially with all this augmented stuff going on. If you have a Vision Pro on, you don't even need a speaker with a screen. You just wear the screen on your face at that point, right? So what are their priorities? What are they trying to do? And how many people are actually going to buy these things? I mean, look at the HomePod market. If Apple's actually selling HomePods, great. Introduce something like this into the wild. But you already know, if Apple introduces a HomePod with a display, that thing's going to start at $499. So we'll see what happens, I guess.
I think it would be cheaper than that. I really do. I mean, look at price of HomePod Mini at like $100. Like, I don't think it would have the sound of the big HomePod. I think it would be lower. And I'm completely against the idea of an iPad as your smart home display. To me, it makes no sense. It's not designed for that. Apple, of course, would have to have a UI for the docking mechanism.
Right.
But anything that you can pick up and move away is not going to be a good
now you have an empty
controller.
shell sitting there if you don't happen to have your iPad
That's
with you.
That doesn't look Apple-esque to you. And if your kid just took it to go play a game, you're like, okay, well, now I can't control my smart home with the smart display because, the kid's playing with the game or something, or they didn't put it back in the dock. All of those types of situations. That is not Apple-esque to me. I
think their solution will be clever.
Because this is pretty cheap. I'm holding up the Google Home one that I have, and it's cheap. It looks kind of like, this looks like something Apple would almost make. It's got just that mesh along the back, white mesh, then just a white lined tablet integrated on the front, and it has like a nice weather view going on, or can show your photos, and then all your smart home control. Yeah, exactly. Apple can make the exact same one, and I'd be happy with just Apple's ecosystem built in.
If I had to pick between two products, if Apple was in the lab right now and they said, all right, pick one and it's going to get made and the other one's going to get thrown in the garbage, never touched again, and it was the smart home hub speaker thing, or a soundbar that included Apple TV support, so you could also attach 2 HomePods as surround sound speakers, I would go with the soundbar 100%. I feel like I would have more use for that in my life than a display that repeats information that's already available on my watch, on my iPad, on my iPhone. Yes, the displays are cool. They would be interesting. I would have them all over my house. Don't get me wrong. But the amount of time I spend watching television or playing video games and wanting more better sound, I think that is the better home solution at this moment. And I'm still hoping, even if we never get a soundbar, if Apple engineers listening to this show, go in there and just do the thing. Add it. Make it so you can attach 4 HomePods at once, put them in 4 corners of a room, and bam. Now you have like this insane sound system for your living room that costs way too much money.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't think that's the mass market angle. I don't think it's the way to go at all, because right now there is nothing that does what a smart Apple display would do. Like, there isn't one. There's nothing to control your Apple smart home other than an iPad with just the home app open perpetually, or a third-party app that Apple doesn't even make. Like, you have no option. And you have options for your living room. Like, everyone makes a soundbar. You can connect, like, I have a Sonos soundbar with rear speakers and a sub, and it sounds absolutely amazing. I would not want to replace that with an Apple version. Like, there's already so many options in that space. I agree. I'd like to be able to connect, more HomePods, maybe like do a four-way setup for better Atmos, but like that would be the extent of it. But I don't need a sound bar with the Apple TV built in.
I could see the HomePod screen thing, the Home Hub, being useful for multi-user homes, where like, or just guests, stuff like that. If people want to, I could foresee one maybe being, in the kitchen or in the bathroom. And if someone wants to start playing music and they don't want to speak out loud, having an interface definitely alleviates a lot of that tension. You can tell people all day long, yeah, if you need to, if you need to turn the lights on, just tell it to turn the lights on and it'll do it. Buttons help with that, but having a display sitting there with obvious cues saying, okay, this will start playing music, this will turn the lights on, yada, yada. That is very useful, especially in a house full of different kinds of people with different levels of tech experience or guests. So again, I see the utility and the usefulness of this device. I just honestly wonder if Apple's actually going to ever do it. I mean, HomeOS keeps popping up, but like, what does that actually mean? Is it this device, or are we wish casting at this point? Because we haven't actually heard anything about the hardware that we're describing in a couple of years, and even then, the sources for those hardware leaks were relatively sketchy. So again, we'll see what Apple does. I want to see more from Apple in the home side of things. I don't think they're doing nearly enough to even support the even Matter ecosystem or devices or control options or even the home app. Like the home app could use an entire just rethink, honestly. But that's just my opinion. I think Apple has a lot of work to do here, but they also have they have their fingers in so many different pies. Who knows when home's going to get another huge priority? But I hope iOS 18 with the new Siri implementations and other Matter upgrades help us see quite the improvement this year.
Yeah. I will say the most recent rumors are coming from Gurman in 2023, saying that Apple is pushing on that smart display with a tablet, basically what he's calling like a low-end iPad, which essentially it would, because that was another one of my counterpoints against it, is like I don't need a massive OLED iPad display for that one, or even a 12.9 inch or an 11 inch. I need like iPad mini sized on that counter. So, but those are the most recent rumors, and Gurman is typically a pretty reliable source on those things. Yeah. Well, I think we need to take a sponsor break, and thank Factor for sponsoring this episode. You have heard us talk about them all the time, and I absolutely love them. They create ready-to-eat meals that are created, pre-prepared by chef. These are all the words that are in the wrong order, but Factor creates amazing ready-to-eat meals that are chef crafted and dietitian approved. Instead of having to get a delivery service that you have to prep and do all the time, which are good when you want to get in there and do it yourself, but if you are busy, you don't have the time, you have kids, you are working, you need something that you can eat that is nutritious. Don't pull something out of the freezer. Instead, use a Factor meal. There are so many options to go to. Each week has 35 different meals you can choose from. There are keto options, calorie smart options, vegan and veggie ones, and more. And my favorite part, Wes, is there are like over 55 different add-ons that you can add. The smoothies are absolutely fantastic. Those are 100% one of my go-to, and I grab them all the time for a nutritious breakfast. And I hate making smoothies because cleaning the blender always seems to be a pain. And it's a big thing. I gotta take it out and then I gotta store fruit, which takes up space in my freezer. No, I like these. They're affordable, easy add-ons to your Factor meals. Absolutely. Have you tried Factor before?
Actually, I haven't used Factor, but the concept's not new to me. Like these ready-to-eat meal boxes are definitely very useful, very helpful when you're doing meal planning. And I definitely like the idea of getting exact portion sizes, or like you said, like with fruit or smoothies or anything like that. Like anytime I buy strawberries, I get home from the store and they're already expired. So having the option to have exactly the right amount works best for me. It's less food waste, less issues like that.
Yeah, and they're so delicious. There's so many. I love these pork one that has like this roasted corn on the side. My wife loves the pasta ones. They take 2 minutes that you can heat them up in the microwave. If you don't want to do the microwave, personally, I like throwing it in like the toaster oven, and you can bake it in just a few minutes, like 7 minutes or something, and boom, you get like some color on there. Things get a little crispy. It's wonderful. It's magical. So yeah, you can pick these up with as little as 6 meals all the way up to 18 meals for a week. And you can add on things like snacks, breakfast, midday bites, and more. There's no prep, no mess, and they are 100% ready to eat. So head to factormeals.com/HomeKit50 and use code HomeKit50 to get 50% off your first box and 2 free wellness shots per box while subscription is active. That's code HomeKit50 at factormeals.com/HomeKit50 to get 50% off your first box and 2 free wellness shots per box while subscription is active. Such a great deal. Thank you, as always, to Factor for sponsoring this video. Well, this podcast. I'm just used to videos at this point.
It's so funny.
Going back,
the entire time you're reading that ad, someone's right outside my home, like revving a car or a motorcycle or something, and my Nano Leaf lights keep reacting to the sound of it revving, and it's just I'm over here dying. It's just
I'm pretty sure they are reacting to your Factor meal being ready to eat.
Of course,
it was only quick 2 minutes. By the time I finished that ad read, Factor meal could have been done.
Right.
Well, jumping back into news because we have some more. SwitchBot has a new product for us. So this is the new SwitchBot Hub Mini. It's a smaller version of their Matter-enabled hub. It'll allow you to connect your existing SwitchBot devices to this Hub Mini and then be able to use them in Matter and, of course, Apple Home. So the new Hub Mini is more affordable and it's smaller. It'll connect to your SwitchBot devices over Bluetooth. You can connect 6 devices, and it contains an IR blaster. So if you have things like a fan, a soundbar, TV, something like that that doesn't work in Apple Home, and you want to be able to get that smart home control of it, you can add it as an IR blaster and add it right there into Matter and Apple Home, which is super cool. But I like this for people who have SwitchBot stuff. There's a lot of SwitchBot fans in our audience. This is an easy add-on to get them into HomeKit.
Yeah, this is interesting because they don't look too bad or anything. They're just these little boxes, and you're going to want to have them kind of disappear probably in the background. And IR blasters mean you'll need it to be in the view of the thing you're trying to control. So you would probably hook this up in your entertainment system, so that way the IR blast could reach the TV sensor if you're going to turn your TV on or off. So this isn't something you're going to be able to hide too easily. Like you can't just put it in a cabinet somewhere and hope that it controls whatever your ceiling fan or whatever it is that you have that has a IR control. But I do like that something like this exists because it allows you to bring more quote unquote dumb objects into your smart home.
Yeah, and of course, you don't have to use the IR blaster. I just like that it's an option if you need it. Like there's very few devices that I have that use IR at this point, but 2 of them are like Dyson fan heater things, and you can just point those fans. What?
Oh, that used to be a huge feature of like Samsung Galaxy phones. The phone would have an IR blaster, and you could actually like download an app that made your phone turn into a TV remote, and you could literally control your TV not through the internet, but through an IR blaster built into your phone. I just think that's so funny that like worlds collide, this ancient technology put into modern smartphones. I wonder if they still do the IR blaster, honestly.
I have no idea. I have not checked that in ages. Well, we're going to return to an old topic on the show here, and this is interesting me, and we're not stirring up beef with anybody, but a couple episodes back, I had talked about at CES, I had heard from 2 different companies that HomeKit routers or HomeKit routers secured by HomeKit were effectively ending. Like existing products would be there, it would still be like supported, but Apple was no longer accepting new routers into the program for certification. I heard this from 2 product leads at CES, and they were very confident about it. They said they had tried to get their new routers reviewed and approved by Apple, and they said they were no longer accepting routers into the program. So that our original coverage on the podcast led to a Reddit thread, which got picked up by 9to5Mac, who they're not saying where they were able to confirm, but they claim they were able to confirm that routers secured by HomeKit are not dead. And honestly, I hope that they are right 100%, because I would love for there to be more HomeKit routers. We know we've talked about it so many times on this show, Wes, that there's no options. There's nothing since Wi-Fi 6 There's like Eero and a Linksys one, but they're all generations and years old, and there's been nothing new in years from HomeKit supported routers. So it still just seems murky. Like we don't know, okay, maybe it's not dead, but there's also nothing new. So whether or not Apple's ending it, or maybe it's still active and just no one wants to actually do it, either way, we still don't have any new options for HomeKit routers.
The problem with any of this is Apple doesn't tell us anything, doesn't tell anyone anything, especially reps. The thing is alive until it's dead. So unless 9 to 5 heard directly from someone who knows for sure that it's actually still alive, if it's like a rep inside Apple, or even, like, because you can talk to Apple off the record and they'll give you some information, and that can be useful. And sometimes you can't always say that they gave you the information, but if it's Apple saying it, then it's harder to rely on that information, because Apple never admits when something is being discontinued until they release the press release, right? Like if you ask them about the HomePod, the day before they announced the original HomePod was being discontinued from sale, they would say, yeah, HomePod's great, it's in our lineup, and we're excited about this product. And then a day later release a PR statement saying they're no longer selling HomePods. So HomeKit, like, I really hope this is true. I hope that whatever information these accessory makers got was wrong, or maybe just some sort of poorly traveled hearsay or whatever. I hope that's the case, and what's actually happening is we're seeing more development in the background that's going to come out with Wi-Fi 7. Because Wi-Fi 6E routers, no mention of no mention of HomeKit secure routers anywhere. If you go to Linksys, I think there's only mention of those original Velop routers. There was a blob on the screen that said, hey, we're going to upgrade this specific router to HomeKit secure router. Never did it. I went and bought one on this promise. I know you're not supposed to do that. They never upgraded it to HomeKit secure router. So now I have a Velop router that doesn't do anything that I wanted it to do. And then on Eero's page, I believe there's even a specific mention that says we have no intent of releasing another router with HomeKit secure router.
Well, they didn't say any more routers. They just said our new Pro routers will not support HomeKit. And honestly, I love the transparency there. I'm fine if you say it's not going to support it, but like they're very clear, like, hey, we love it. It's in this router. If you want to use it, we have these new ones coming out. We're not going to include it in here. Maybe in another one in the future, but these ones specifically, we're just not going to do it this time.
And Ubiquity has like this gaming router that supports it, but again, Wi-Fi 6, no Wi-Fi 7 router.
Using it in mesh.
Yeah, not if you. It has to be a single node point. And what's even weirder is I've been researching this for a while, and I was digging around the internet and I found a reference to a Wi-Fi 7 router with HomeKit support, and the reference was made via Best Buy. For, I guess, I already forgot which router it was, but it's not important because I think it was wrong. But on Wi-Fi on Best Buy's support page, it said Wi-Fi 7 router, all these specs, yada yada, HomeKit router support. But if you go to that router's actual website, no mention of HomeKit router support. In fact, there's no mention of HomeKit router support for any of its lineup, except for these ancient Wi-Fi 6 routers that you can still buy. Again, I forget exactly which one that was. I don't think it was Netgear, maybe. But it, again, not important because it doesn't appear to actually be the case. So I don't know why HomeKit router support is such an oddball thing. If it can be added via a firmware update, then why aren't more router companies adding this as an update? I want to see this implemented in more places, not because the functionality now is particularly interesting, but it can improve. I mean, it's software. You can add new features to HomeKit router support. If you have control and a view of your entire HomeKit system within these within like HomeKit and these controls, you can actually get pretty complex in the ways that you manage them with future upgrades. But we're not seeing any of that because no one's supporting it. So I don't know what's happening.
No one clearly knows. I did see a lot of people on social responding back to me saying, this is clearly evidence that Apple is bringing back airport routers. Is that
Oh
true?
yeah.
Probably not, but we can hope. Last bit of news that we have here is a new app has launched. Well, not really a new app, but a new update. The Wallflower app has been updated to version 2.0. This looks really sleek. It kind of ties into what we've been talking about in this episode. But it's built by a company called Next Best Thing, I believe, or at least without all of the vowels in there. But new version, it looks very slick. So if you're interested in using your iPad in some degree as like a home controller, this looks like a very nice app to make that happen. So there is iPhone support on as well, but there's things like a clock, and you can see temperatures over time. There's little graphs, adjust lights, like all the stuff that you can do, but you can kind of build your own like smart dashboard of your home. And version 2 came out with several new changes. They have weather, calendar, more HomeKit features, complete rewrite of the app. So if you're someone who is looking for some sort of smart display option inside of what's already available, check out Wallflower 2. It is linked in the show notes along with everything else that we're talking about today. What do you think, Wes?
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things. If you have an old iPad laying around, this is a great use of that product. I mean, it scares me having information displayed for too long on any display because I always worry about burn-in and everything. But yeah, Wallflower sounds like an interesting product. It's not something that like I would probably use, honestly. Just I'm sorry. So this is I'm completely misunderstanding. This is a hardware product, right? So you would
No, I believe it's an app.
is it an app? Okay, their product image is not telling me. I know. Sorry, I heard what you said. It's just I believed it was an app. Opened their webpage and their thing looks completely not like an app. So never mind. I'm just going to ignore their website and just go off of what you said. Yeah, I don't know about running a screen all the time, even just like an old device like that, because you have to keep it powered. And then we're talking about lithium batteries having to be charged or recharged or whatever. It's a whole ordeal. So at the end of the day, I would say depends on if you just have an extra device laying around. I would definitely not use something like this for like a primary device.
Very true. So we don't have too much time left in the episode. I say we're going to circle back to Vision Pro likely next week. I know, Wes, you had a little mention in here about, at least in these early reviews, it looks like there's non-permanent object placement for smart home controls. So it doesn't look like we're going to get that kind of AR style pass through of like lights displaying on everything, which is a little bummer. I don't know if you had seen Joanna Stern's review, Wes, over at Wall Street Journal, but she cooked with hers on using the Crouton app. And while cooking, she's able to see her recipe, and then she's able to fix timers in 3D space. So she had like one above her pasta, one above something else, and every time she would just look at her stove, she could see the timers floating above each device. It's not quite like the home control stuff, but at least while running that app, that is very, very freaking cool.
It is cool. I do worry about, like, because I keep thinking about the cooking thing. Is there not just steam flying into your face, into the Vision Pro air vents and stuff? I don't really understand how that all works, but cooking with it definitely seems like it'd be interesting later down the line when it's a little lighter and a little bit more versatile. But yeah, from these reviews and from a couple of people describing how some of the more just details of the software, every time you put Vision Pro on, it's kind of a new instance. I'm sure it can remember what you were doing in that room and leave those windows open. So when you put it on, those windows are still there in that place. But you can't have persistent windows continuously, especially between reboots. More or less, think of it like any other headset where you can kind of refocus the center around you by holding down a button. If I set up a bunch of windows in my office and I leave my office and shut the door and walk to the living room and turn around and look in the direction of my office, I'm going to see a bunch of windows at a distance through the walls. Like the walls aren't going to obfuscate the windows. So the windows are going to kind of be dancing around in space. They're still in my office. So if I go back through the wall, through the door, to the office, they're going to be in the correct places, but I'll always see them no matter where I am in the house. If I stand in the living room and hold down the digital crown, those windows will jump to me in the living room in the same positions physically and same distance from center, just in the living room. So that's cool. You can bring the workstation with you. But yeah, walking around your house and labeling all your plants and labeling all your lights, would mean having a bunch of random windows just always in your view, no matter where you are in your home, because the walls don't obfuscate the windows. But B, those would go away if you restarted your device and you just wasted your time. So it's not that kind of device, not anytime soon, not yet. But I do like the idea of in the moment labeling your pots with timers or having specific music playing windows and stuff. I hope in the future we get better anchoring control, and I think this is where circling our story back to AirTag 2 being more of an anchor device for Apple Vision Pro. Imagine having AirTag 2 style devices, or whatever they're called, around your home for permanent anchor points for certain apps or objects. So every time you put on Vision Pro, that anchor is always this device or always this app. Like it's always a little digital radio. That could be a future implementation, but right now it's just too rudimentary to allow it to work that way.
There was like a tracking device that actually had those. They were little tiny things you would put on like your lamp and stuff, and you would register with the app, and you could use your phone, I believe, and it would show them and then control them and stuff. It was really neat, and it was a very early idea of what I think we could see here without having to put actual windows, but being able to like look at something, have it detect that tag there, and then allow you to interact with it when you brought focus to it. I could see that potentially being a thing, but you have to tell, like, am I looking at that object or am I looking at whatever's on my screen because I tilted my head or something in my screen?
Right.
I had a window there or something. So maybe it gets too messy, but it'll be interesting. I thought the cooking demo was very
the cooking demo was really cool. I still worry about the steam though, but well, I guess we'll see. Maybe get Apple Care, but don't tell anyone you cooked with it on. So,
right, exactly. Well, thank you as always for everybody for listening. It was a little bit of a cathartic episode, I think, for me this week, just kind of to get back to the HomeKit community. Harrison had yet another surgery last week, and it has been a little bit up and down with his whole recovery process there, but he's doing really well. And I feel like I've just been stressed getting everything ready for Vision Pro. So it was nice just to be able to chat HomeKit stuff with everybody, and hope this episode was good. Wes, as always, thank you for coming by. You can find Wes at Mastodon down below in the show notes, the one that's used probably slightly more than Thread at this point. Threads with an S, I think. But you can find all of our links down in the show notes, links for everything we talked about in this episode. Do what you guys do best and give us 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast from. Follow the video on youtube.com/HomeKit Insider, and we will see you guys on the next episode. See you guys.